Welcome to our next edition of the Foundations Speaker Series. My name is Michelle Warofka. Today I am very excited to spend some time with Miss Joanie Norelli. Joanie is the Senior Customer Manager for PepsiCo. PepsiCo is a global leader in the food and beverage industry. And PepsiCo products are enjoyed in more than 200 countries and territories around the world. And in 2019, PepsiCo was ranked 48th on the Fortune 500 list. And most recently here in 2020 was named among Fortune's World's Most Admired Company. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today, Joanie.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Now, when people hear PepsiCo, most people often think about the cola that they drink or the Diet Cola, but PepsiCo is really more than just a cola, right? Tell us a little bit more about some of the other products and brands that are PepsiCo.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Most people would be very surprised to know that PepsiCo owns Frito-Lay, and Frito-Lay makes all the chips, whether it be Cheetos, Doritos, Lay's, Ruffles. So that's one part of our portfolio. But then also two other ones that are real iconic that people don't realize is Gatorade. We own Gatorade, and we also own Tropicana, Naked Juice, and Quaker. And so under the Quaker portfolio, there are brands like Captain Crunch, Life, Rice-A-Roni, Aunt Jemima, both syrup and mix, oatmeal, of course. I'm trying to think what else might be in there. Those are the major ones that people might be surprised. I didn't know you were owned by such and such.
Right. And boy, all this talk of food and beverage is making me hungry and thirsty.
I know, it's lunchtime,
sure.
Right?
and a lot of those are brands and products that I enjoy myself and didn't realize it was under the PepsiCo. So this is wonderful information. Thank you. Yes.
You're
now,
welcome.
as I mentioned in your introduction, you're the Senior Customer Manager. So if you could kind of tell us some of the roles and responsibilities of that title and maybe even describe kind of a typical day, what you do.
Sure. Well, the customer manager, whether it be senior or not, deals with the actual customer, and there's a couple different channels. You have the C-store channel, which is when you drive up to get gas and you run into the store. That's considered C-store. That's like a grab and go. So they're traditionally more smaller sizes, smaller packs, higher prices because it's convenience. Then there's the channel that's food service. So when you go into the restaurants and whatnot and you order a cola, hopefully Pepsi. But most people, when they say cola, they're not necessarily thinking Pepsi or Coke. They're just thinking the brown liquid. But it's the cola. That's the food service side. And then I'm actually now in the grocery side, which is when you go into the store, whether it be Giant or Weis or Stop and Shop or Wegmans or any of those. And so as a customer manager, our job is to sell them ads to be able to run our products. So if you go in and you actually see an orange juice on sale, someone like me has actually sold them a deal to be able to put us on feature and put us in the ad at a certain price point.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you work very closely with those different, grocery stores and facilities like that.
Absolutely. And again, we work with the headquarters, and then the headquarters will push it out to the individual stores. And again, it depends on how it's set up. On the C-store side of the business, there's a lot of independence. So if you're a C-store account manager, while you may be working with chains, you're also working with independent stores. On the grocery side, most everybody, if it's owned by a corporation, i.e. like Giant has a couple of facilities. One is Giant Martin's, or one is the regular Giant. One's based in Baltimore, one's based in New England, but they're both the same customer. And so while they may have 500 stores, it's one call. And so then they push it out to the stores.
Very interesting how that all works. Very neat. Now tell us a little bit about your educational pathway, how you got to where you are today.
Well, it wasn't planned by any means. And so that's one of the things that I would recommend for anybody looking for a job. Regardless of what you take in school, you may have an aptitude for this or that. And from my background, I actually majored in finance and minored in economics at St. John's University. And the reason I fell into those two degrees, if you will, is that's what my dad took. So I had no other basis for knowing anything else, didn't really know what I wanted. So I figured, all right, it was good enough for him. It might be good enough for me. So that's what I went to. So my first job out of college was Nielsen Marketing Research, where I did top lighting reporting. So all the scan data that goes through the register comes back in a compilation, and you break it out and send it back to the client saying, okay, here's how you did for a given 4-week, 12-week, 52-week time frame. So I was there about 2 years and got a call from a headhunter and said, hey, listen, Tropicana's looking to hire somebody that would do this in-house. Would you be interested? And at the time I was going for the Tropicana piece of it. And I was working in the city with Nielsen, and this was a chance to go work in the suburbs. So I would do a reverse commute. Rather than go deeper into the city, I'd go deeper into the suburbs, and figured, you know what, I'm done with the city. I don't like the crowds. I don't like the train. Let me try that. So 32 years later, I'm still with PepsiCo because Tropicana was bought by Pepsi. Pepsi then bought Quaker, and it's now the conglomerate that we have today.
Wow, what a history. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah. And now, somebody who's maybe looking to go into this particular career path, what might be some classes or courses that you might recommend somebody considering to take to prepare them for something like
Well,
this?
there's a lot of classes, universities and whatnot that have marketing classes and or food marketing classes and or just basic sales. So I would say the degree to a lesser degree is if an oxymoron there, but it's not as important as finding where you kind of land and what path you take. The best thing I can give as an example is be open to any opportunity. Don't automatically say no to anything until you hear what the opportunity is, and then kind of pursue it from there, because you never know. Everything's connected, and it's just like a big loop. And so one thing will lead to a next, and you can, as long as you learn one thing from each task you do, then you're in good shape.
Wonderful, great advice, great, wonderful advice. Now, it kind of, just for out of curiosity, what was when you were taking you back when you were in high school? What was your favorite class?
Ooh, interesting. Now, see, I was in a unique. They don't. I don't even know if they do this anymore. But when I was in high school, I was in a commercial and a regular education facility. So I was able to take back then. I know this is dating myself. STEM and typing, along
Yep.
with education classes, because some people hadn't decided what if they were going to continue on to college after high school. So you
Hmm.
had both. And
Hmm.
so the one I hated the worst was STEM. And typing, I couldn't. I was the one finger typer like this.
Yeah,
I've gotten much better over time, but the one fingers was not so good. Um,
sure.
Probably it was. I guess I'd have to say finance because that was my major, and so I liked that kind of thing. But the funny thing is, as I got older, I hate math, so it always stumps me, and I'm always not sure I'm doing it right, but I pursue through it anyway.
Wow. Persevere right through it, right?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Now, based on your educational pathway, did you kind of even anticipate being where you are today, and is this where you thought you'd be?
No. And what I would say, I was always taught, and again, I'm going back because of my age, and I've been with this company for 32 years. We were always taught, keep your head down, keep your nose clean, and somebody will see what you're doing. And so we were never very aggressive in going to pursue the next opportunity. You kind of always, at least I did, sat back and the next opportunity you'd be tapped. So that's kind of how I went through my whole career, which is very different than people coming out of college today. You have to be somewhat aggressive, and you have to kind of let your manager know what the next thing you're looking for and that you're ready to try something new and you want more responsibility. So for myself, if I was talking to my younger self, I'd say be a little more aggressive and go pursue what you want. But I've never been disappointed in any opportunity that came my way, and I've made the most of it. And I love what I do. I've never said on a Sunday, "Oh my God, I got to go to work tomorrow." So that's not in my vernacular. So I would say you have to be happy what you're doing, whatever it is.
And that's a perfect segue to my next question here,
Oh, look
Joanie.
at
What
that.
is it? Yeah, I mean, many years here at PepsiCo, what is it? And it may be a variety of things, but what do you enjoy most about your job working at PepsiCo?
A couple things. I think it's really cool to be involved with such iconic brands. It's not you ever have to go and say, "Oh yeah, I got the latest bean flavor." Most people know Pepsi or Gatorade or Tropicana or Naked Juice. They're iconic brands. So that kind of gives you a step up and you kind of walk a little higher. I also like the camaraderie. Even though we're a very big multinational, worldwide company, it's a very small group of people that do the same thing that you do. So there's a team feel, there's a family feel. And most of the people that I work with, they're, 20 and 30-year veterans. So it's not a lot of turnover. We're not looking to jump ship. We're not looking to, you may be chasing a dollar, but sometimes you have to be happy too. So working with the people that you are is most important to me.
Wonderful. Yes, important communication. Absolutely. Now, what education or skills, qualities, or really even talents are necessary for a job in this field, in your field?
Well, I think a couple things that would be helpful. I think you need to understand the basic workings of math. Is it a profitable ad? How much do you have to give the customer to actually make it worthwhile for the retailer to actually buy it? But also you got to know the store. So one of the things I first did as I took this kind of job over in Channel, you have to get out there and walk the pavement. There's no other better education than looking at the shelves, looking at the aisles, see what your competition's doing. How do they planogram? And that just simply means how do they set it on the shelf? There's a science to how, whether it's the first shelf, second shelf, third shelf, in the basement kind of a thing. So how people are going to pick it. Like, for example, you would never want to put necessarily oatmeal on the very top shelf, because oatmeal consumer is usually an elderly consumer or middle age, and they can't reach the top shelf. So there's a whole science behind why you do what you do, understanding that, and then giving you a better feel for what's going on. So there's different roles. There's the retail side of it, then there's the back office side of it. And it's glamorous to go into the customer and say, hey, I want you to take my new item. But there's so much more on the backside that you have to do and prepare in order to get them to agree with what you want them to do.
Wonderful. Right. Now, as someone who is, looking for a job and wants to excel in their profession, in their career, what can somebody entering this particular career field do to set themselves apart and really make themselves stand out from the rest of the crowd?
I would say pick a mentor early on. And again, that's another thing that we were never really taught. And there's apparently a difference between a mentor and somebody who's actually going to help pull you along. So somebody you want to get a peer mentor that's been in the job a little longer, that can kind of show you the tricks of the trade and a little bit of role, but you also want to pick somebody that's a level or two higher that's going to sponsor you. And that when your name comes up, and we all know they have the HR meetings behind closed doors. And I almost envision it as a whiteboard, and they're moving your names around. Is she ready to move, or is he ready to move? Where could they go? That helps too, because you're top of mind. So I would say that's one of the critical things to do. And then ask a ton of questions. You might think you're being too much and asking too many things. You can never ask too many questions, because that's your education. That's what you're trying to find out, the in and outs, and be prepared for when the next role does come. Oh yeah, I know how to do that.
Right. And I can't agree more. Mentorship is a big thing, and we're actually we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but
Okay.
Great opportunity to really motivate and give guidance to students who are, looking
Absolutely.
to go out there. Fantastic. Now, out of curiosity, any additional tips or advice for our viewers here as they prepare for post-secondary success in education or work? I mean, regardless of what path they may choose to take. And maybe as a kind of a continuation onto that, if I may, maybe what's some of the best advice that you've ever received?
I think I'll answer the last one first. The best advice I ever received was, don't follow somebody because you like them. So if you actually get into a role and you like your immediate manager and think that you're set, and then, you're going to be hanging on their coattails, if you will, unfortunately, it's dog eat dog, and they may be nice to you, but as soon as they don't have a use for you or your work, you're kind of hung out there to dry. So I would say you have to make your own path independent of anyone else within the organization. That would be my first suggestion. The other thing is, don't think that any job is too minuscule for you to do. For example, on the grocery side or whatnot, and even on the C-store side, there's food trade shows. And a food trade show means you bring your wares to a big auditorium type thing. All the manufacturers are there, and you're either sampling a new item or you're getting them to buy something new. You're on your feet for 4 to 6 hours, depending on how the show is. And they're not the nicest people. They're trying to take things off your table, and you're kind of like, I'm so above this. You're above nothing. It's an education. It gives you an insight into what's going on. So take any opportunity and volunteer for an opportunity that may seem that nobody else wants, because people notice, oh yeah, she'll do that. Okay. And you check it off. It's not going to change your life in any way, but it gives you another step up that's different than somebody else.
Wonderful. Great advice. Now, as for our viewers who are preparing to enter the workforce and get ready for that all-important interview, any tips or strategies for really acing that interview?
I think the biggest mistake that I've seen people make on the interview is they're so big on selling themselves that all they do is talk and they don't listen. So the first thing you have to do is you have to listen. You have to let the interviewer kind of finish the question, formulate your thoughts, but then you have also had to have done your homework, and you have to have thought-provoking questions from you to the interviewer. So for example, if we were talking about it and I say to you, well, so tell me, what's the number one goal of PFEW? You want to know that you've already got the answer so that you can make the conversation two-sided. But if you come in blind and you have no idea what even the acronym means, you're kind of lost, and the interviewer will know that immediately.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Yes. Now, finally, getting close here to the end here. I know that volunteering is a really big part of your life. And in fact, if I may share with our viewers here, you've been a volunteer with our organization through our programming, Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week, for several years now, and where you've had an opportunity, talking again about that mentorship that we talked about earlier, where you've had a chance to mentor students from all over the state for a week through our summer programming. If I may ask, Joanie, why is PFEW so important to you that you take time to volunteer and mentor high school students?
I think when I originally found it, it came up on my computer from my work because they want us to be civic minded as well. And I was like, oh, this looks like an interesting opportunity. And I fell in love from almost the first moment. The camaraderie amongst the other company advisors, from the staff to PFEW, and then more importantly, you get to be in close quarters with 16 to 18 teenagers. And I know everybody's like, oh, teenagers. But you know what? You understand from a different perspective. You get to be mom for a week, or you get to be dad for a week, or big brother, big sister, depending on what your age is. And you're in it together all day long, and kind of advice, and they look to you for guidance. You have some fun. It's just a fabulous experience.
Well, we thank you for your support of our organization and the many students that you have mentored over the years. We can't thank you enough for your help and support with that. And if I may end by ending things here today by thanking you again, Joanie, for joining us. It's truly been an honor and pleasure to spend this time with you. You've done a wonderful job. Oh, our pleasure. You've done a wonderful job giving our viewers an opportunity to explore and learn about a career in the field of sales and account management, and have provided some wonderful tips and incitement. So there's no doubt about it, Joanie, these expert insight, tips, and advice shared today will prepare our viewers to really hit the ground running here. And thank you. And finally, lastly, if you'd like to connect with Joanie directly, stay tuned as her contact information will follow. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.